Welcome to episode 6 of Royal Nature. You join us at a time of transition where we're all starting to ease out of lockdown and find our new normal. And I think it's really important at this time that we stay rooted in nature and we remember what nature has done for us during this period. It can help us to reduce the stress and anxiety and cope with the unknown and the worry. And it just helps us to notice more, to observe, to appreciate the natural world and to see things that perhaps we didn't see before. Today we're going to look at a couple of controversial species, and we're going to be looking at the badger and the ring-necked parakeet. We've also got lots of footage and photos that you've been sending in, and I've included some in today's episode. I hope you enjoy it. So recently I visited West Park and I saw an unusual bird fly past me. In fact, there were at least 5 of them, and they were rose-ringed or ring-necked parakeets. Now, if you haven't seen these, they're quite extraordinary and exotic looking birds. They're actually a naturalised parrot, which means they are an exotic species that have begun to live in this country. And we're pretty sure they started living here in the 1970s after some captive birds either escaped or were deliberately released. And a lot of the birds that we see are probably ones that have escaped from captivity. Now, they were really common in the Greater London area for some time, but now their range is spreading in the country. So as far as I know, they've been in West Park for at least 5 years, but I've never seen them myself. Apparently, they've also been in my garden, but I've never seen them there either. So it was very exciting, and they make an absolutely brilliant call, and they have a really, really long tail, and you see this flash of green. It was fantastic. I was really lucky to get some photos and video. So they roost communally, which is why we saw so many together, and I'm pretty sure they were nesting in the trees at West Park. They're sexually dimorphic, which means the males and females look slightly differently. The males have this black and red, this rose-coloured ring around their neck, whereas the females don't. And we think there's about 8,600 breeding pairs in Britain. They originate from West Africa and South Asia, so they are very exotic and used to much warmer climes, but they can cope here as long as the food's reliable, which is why you tend to see them in gardens and parks. They eat fruit, berries, nuts and seeds, anything they can get hold of really. If you feed them scraps of human food too, they'll tend to feed on that as well. Now, they are beautiful to see and it was very exciting, but unfortunately some people don't share my excitement because they are seen as quite invasive. They are an alien species and the population certainly needs to be monitored, and their impact on local native wildlife, because we're not sure what impact they have on creatures such as woodpeckers, starlings, nuthatches, and alien species is one of the biggest causes really in terms of lack of biodiversity and driving other species to extinction or to population decline. So whilst they are very exciting, we have also got to monitor their impact and make sure they're not damaging our native species. Gabriel in Year 3 sent us in this footage of baby spiders. Now, I know spiders aren't everyone's cup of tea, but they are an important food source for other creatures, and as they get bigger they're really important for pest control in the garden, and come on, these are cute. Today we're going to look at the Eurasian badger, Meles meles, and the badger is a member of the mustelid family, which is the same family that otters, polecats, weasels and ferrets belong to. And you probably recognise them with their distinctive black and white striped face, but you may or may not know that actually you get a whole range of colours of badgers. You can have albino badgers that are white with pink eyes, leucistic badgers that are white with black eyes, and erysitic badgers that are red and gingery, and melanistic, which are very, very rare and they're almost completely black. Now, badgers can live for up to 15 years old in the wild, and they're very territorial, living in sets, and some of these sets can be quite impressive. They can have up to 50 entrances, be over 100 metres long, and some of the sets are over 100 years old, that have been built on with each generation of badger. Now, they're nocturnal and they're omnivores, which means they come out at night and they eat both meat and plants. So they'll eat anything they can get, from worms, frogs, slugs, rabbits, mice, even hedgehogs, and fruits and bulbs. and it's thought that they can eat up to 200 worms a night. They have excellent hearing and smell to help them find food. The male badger is called a boar, the female a sow, and the babies are cubs, and the family of badgers that live in the set are called a clan. Now, a fully grown badger is about 1 metre long, and they have very sharp claws and strong short front legs, really good for digging. And they've been spotted in about 3% of people's gardens in the UK. It's thought there's about 300,000 badgers. At full speed, they can run up to 19 miles an hour. But in fact, one of their biggest threats is the car, and thousands are killed on the road each year. So here's a question for you. Who would win in a fight between a fox, a badger and a cat? Well, I can tell you that between a badger and a fox, the badger would win because of its sharp claws. In terms of the hierarchy in the garden, the fox comes last, then the badger because of its sharp claws. But the ultimate winner every time will always be a cat because it has both sharp teeth and sharp claws. And you can see here some footage of when my tiny cat Evie actually manages to fight and chase away a badger several times larger than herself. As with most wildlife, badgers are quite controversial and they're certainly not liked by everyone. Badgers can cause a lot of damage in gardens to both the lawn and to fences and things. For hundreds of years, they've been subject to badger baiting, which is when they're baited for dogs, and it's a very cruel blood sport. Some people believe that badgers can carry bovine TB, which spreads disease to cattle, and for that reason there's been a number of culls over the years. In 2018, 38,000 badgers were legally culled because of fears around them spreading bovine TB. The controversy around badgers seems set to continue for quite some time. Leo in year 1 has been on his adventures. He's been on a bug hunt, playing in dens and building his own wormery. Today I'm going to show you how to set a trail camera. Now, trail cameras are fantastic. They're a really good way of seeing what animals are getting up to in your garden or local area when you're not around to watch. And in the olden days, you'd have to set up a hide and camp out overnight with your binoculars in whatever the weather to try and see the animals. But now we can set trail cameras and get amazing footage, and the animals are undisturbed and showing natural behaviour. Now, the price of trail cameras have come down hugely, and you can get cheap ones from as little as £20 nowadays. But obviously you get what you pay for in terms of the quality of the camera. But if you wanted to have a go and to try it out with a decent bit of kit, you can also hire cameras for about the same amount of money, about £20 for a week. You will need a trail camera, rechargeable batteries ideally, a memory card, and a tripod is good too, because really you should be setting the camera at about knee height, so you want it raised up off the ground slightly. So you can either strap it to a tree or a piece of outdoor furniture, or you can put it on a tripod. Now, you want to conceal the camera in a bit of cover so it's not sticking out and obvious, but also you don't want any vegetation in the way because the camera is triggered by movement, and if there's a plant that's blowing in front of the camera all night, it's going to activate the camera and you'll have hundreds of images of that plant or that branch blowing in front of the camera. So you want to think about where to put it where it's not going to have anything like plants coming in the front of it. You also want to look out to see if there's a regular track that animals take. So for example, if you have a fox or badger in your garden, does it walk on a particular path each day? Is there a hole in the fence where it comes through? And you can angle the camera on that. You've also got to think about sunrise and sunset. You don't want the camera facing right into the sunrise or right into the sunset, as it can ruin your images. And security as well. So if it's in your garden, then that's obviously fine. If you leave it in your local area, then you're taking a bit of a risk, and you need to make sure in terms of security that it isn't going to get stolen. You could also try putting the trail camera on a bird feeder to see a close-up of what birds are visiting your bird feeder. Now, if you do this, you might find that it takes a while for the birds to get used to it. Birds are very wary about anything new in their territory, so you might have to leave it for a few days and find that you get very few birds visiting at first until they get used to it and they realise it's not a threat. Then they should revert back to their normal natural behaviour. So all you do is set the camera, point it in the direction you want, and then off you go. And then the next morning you can go back and check on it and see what you've got. It's really exciting to remove that memory card and put it in your laptop and then look through to see what images you've captured. And I'll show you a selection now of what I've managed to capture with mine. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Keep sending in your footage, keep safe, and I'll see you soon.